Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called I Created a Harem to Avoid the Male Lead. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! The Circle of Salvation is a book that follows the story of Selena, a pitiful damsel abused by her husband and her half-sister's knight. A woman who is waiting for an audition reads the book as part of a series, concluding that it's not worth the read. Irritated at its plot, she decides to leave a bad review. But as soon as she does, she's transported into the book's universe, inhabiting Selena Crawford's body. Unfortunately for her, she takes Selena's consciousness in the middle of being physically beaten up by her half-sister, Shannon Berry. Concerned, a maid rushes to Selena's side, much to Shannon's dismay. However, the sudden warping of the woman's life from reality to fiction leaves her confused. And it's only when Shannon leaves that she's able to process everything. She's now living Selena Crawford's life. She sobs, unwilling to lead a life of misery. But as she passes a mirror, she can't help but admire Selena's beauty, voicing it aloud for her maid to hear. But this only makes the maid tear up. Selena has just spoken without stuttering. It turns out the maid's name is Penny, and in the book, she's Selena's only friend. When Shannon and Camilla, Selena's stepmother, had all ganged up to sell Selena to the male lead, only Penny remained loyal to Selena. Turning to Penny, Selena remembers the book's first scene, where she bought poison. But Penny swapped the poison for sleeping pills, thwarting Selena's attempts of ending herself. In the present, she confronts Penny about it. Hearing this, Penny cries and apologizes, explaining her reasons. However, Selena doesn't mind. Instead, she expresses that the sleeping pills may have affected her memory a bit. Oh, good save! I guess that's a good excuse to explain her sudden disorientation upon waking up in Selena's body. She then asks Penny to fill her in on recent happenings. Apparently, only Selena received an invitation to the Empress's birthday banquet, angering Shannon greatly, hence the earlier incident. Listening to this, Selena remembers that in the book, she first meets the male lead at the Empress's banquet. Fearing to meet the same fate as the book's original plot, Selena is determined to steer clear from the male lead at all costs. With renewed vigor, she tells Penny to prepare a carriage. She's going out to buy a new dress. As Penny leaves, Selena decides to weave her own destiny. She just needs to avoid the male lead, Duke Valentine, and her half-sister's knight, Valhall Castic. It's been 7 years since Selena went out, and seeing her out and about, everyone is in awe. After shopping for her dress, she and Penny return to the carriage. She sees Penny holding something other than the receipts. It's a leaflet from the monastery. Come to think of it, Valhall was a knight from the monastery. The following morning, Penny wakes Selena to a tragic sight. Selena's dress is ripped to shreds. They're sure that the culprit is none other than Shannon. Knowing that her uncle, Cedric Crawford, is back at the mansion, she screams to get his attention. Just as she planned, Cedric comes running in, seeing Selena's plight. She rats Shannon out, pinning her as the culprit. But just and righteous as ever, Cedric explains that she has no proof that Shannon did it. Well, what do you expect from the leader of 5 knight orders? Cedric then turns to look at the knight next to him, reprimanding him. He's the next captain, yet he failed to prevent such an issue from happening in the mansion. However, the knight retorts that he's no butler, so he certainly couldn't manage household issues, especially one that transpired inside Selena's own bedroom. Hearing him speak, Selena becomes curious about him. Since he's the next captain, could he be William Spencer? Suddenly, Shannon bursts into the room, screaming and denying that she ripped the dress. Cedric tries to calm Shannon down and asks Selena if she has other dresses to wear to the banquet. Classic noble drama. She then shifts the conversation to her mother, saying this problem would have been resolved if she were here, but she's out hunting for 15 days. Hearing this, Cedric becomes furious. Selena tries to calm her uncle by taking the blame for Shannon not receiving an invitation. She insists on receiving punishment by spending a month in the monastery to reflect. After some thought, Cedric agrees to this idea. Selena and Penny establish a plan before she leaves for a month to reflect in the monastery. If Camilla asks about Selena's stuttering, Penny must say that she still stutters foolishly. Good thing they thought about this ahead of time. Just as Selena is about to leave the castle, Shannon calls her crazy for going to the monastery. Calmly, she asks Shannon to pay the dressmaker coming that night, since she did tear her dress. This assumption infuriates Shannon, making her lash out. But Selena catches her hand with a playful smile, telling her not to act childish while she's away. Shocked by her comment, Shannon begins to suspect that Selena is hiding something in the monastery. Why else would she volunteer to go there? Selena then begins to recall the scenes in the book where Shannon's knight, Valhall Castic, was the reason for her suffering. He had helped Shannon escape from the furious Grand Duke, intervening in the punishment she was about to receive. Selena believes that if she could reach Valhall first, she might be able to avoid the suffering that awaits her. After a long journey, Selena finally arrives at the monastery, welcomed warmly by the priests. She quickly devises a plan: find Valhall. But how can she when 7 other gladiator slaves share the same dark hair as him? Suddenly, Selena's attention is drawn to a heavily injured man being hauled by priests. They tell her one thing: not to pity him. After all, he kills every opponent without fail, earning him the name Berserker. The priests tell Selena about the tournament. If Berserker wins 2 more times, he could win the overall tournament. But if he loses, he dies. The priest then changes the atmosphere with a laugh, telling her not everyone dies in the tournament. However, Selena is convinced that Berserker is Valhall. Suddenly, priests rush to Berserker's aid as he collapses. The environment illuminates with blue and purple streaks of light, catching Selena's attention. She turns back in shock, only to see mana crystals being used for the treatment. Seeing the situation, she thinks that it would be better for a high priest to provide the treatment. Without hesitation, she calls for Priest Franz, but her voice frightens him, causing him to lose balance and fall down the ladder, dropping his mana crystal. Selena picks up the crystal and shocks Priest Franz. With great astonishment, he begins to tell her that the crystal changes its hue to purple only when one possesses spiritual powers, indicating that Selena has spiritual powers. However, he tells Selena he will keep it a secret between them, warning her that if the temple finds out, they'll force her to be a priestess. Hearing this, Selena asks why he doesn't want her to be part of the temple. But he tells her the cruel reality of being in the temple. Priests and priestesses are not allowed to eat meat and eggs. LOL, what a dilemma he has! Selena excuses herself shortly, but as she's about to get going, she notices that the crystal isn't reacting to Priest Franz. Selena teases him, saying he stole the crystal, catching him off guard and making him nervous. She's such a tease. Selena proposes a deal. If Priest Franz gives her the mana crystal, painkillers, and visits her at Crawford Palace, she'll keep his secret. However, he can't help but wonder where or whom she'll use these valuable items on. Later that night, Selena visits the man in the isolation room, Berserker. He weakly asks her to leave, but she doesn't listen. She takes away the sword he's holding, unintentionally locking hands. Selena then pulls away and makes him drink the medicine. She takes the mana crystal from her pocket, but before she could use it, Berserker gets up and pushes her against the wall. As she is pinned against the wall, she thinks she could be killed any moment now. However, to her surprise, he pleads with her, asking her to kill him. In a desperate tone, Berserker asks to be killed. He pleads with Selena to set him free, but Selena can't do such a thing. Selena snaps, telling him he shouldn't die like this. If he can survive 2 more battles, then he can earn his freedom from being a gladiator slave. She then uses the mana crystal on him, illuminating the room in blue and purple streaks of light. Suddenly, Selena feels dizzy, but a loud voice calls out for her. She rushes to leave, but Berserker nervously grabs her arm, begging her not to go. But Selena can't stay in there, so she pulls away and leaves. Selena was called because a letter had arrived for her, but she doesn't believe this and thinks that Franz only called her to keep an eye on her. Franz denies her allegations and hands her a letter, proving her wrong. She looks at the letter. It has the name Eddie on it. She tries to recall who this character is until she realizes, could Eddie be Adrian Barry, Camilla's son? Her half-brother? She begins to recall the scenes in the original novel where Adrian had chased the carriage Selena and the male lead were in, desperately trying to save her. But unfortunately, he tragically met his end. That's some ending for a character. They really just killed him like that. The letter wrote, "I want to see you, please forgive me," leaving Selena confused and suspicious. She thinks that she should avoid Adrian at all costs. Back at the palace, William and Cedric are looking for Camilla in her study, only to find the room empty. He then orders William to send a letter to the hunting grounds. If she doesn't return by sunrise tomorrow, Cedric will come after her personally. The Countess Camilla returns the next morning, receiving an earful from Cedric. She calms him down, shifting the topic to marriage customs in the capital. In the capital, once a woman is widowed, the husband's younger brother remarries her to continue the family line. Listening to this, Cedric rejects her attempts, firmly opposing the idea. Camilla, in disbelief, reminds him that only married men can receive noble titles. But her words fade in the background as Cedric recalls Joanna, Selena's birth mother. Joanna once promised Cedric that she'd plead with her father to dismiss him from the battlefield. But Cedric, out of fear of dying in battle, never managed to propose to Joanna, fearing he'd only make her a widow. Had he not let his fears take over, they could have shared a beautiful life together. In his absence, Joanna's hand was instead promised to Cedric's brother. But years later, when Cedric returned from the war, he came to find out that Joanna tragically died in a carriage accident. Back in the present, Camilla storms into Shannon's room after hearing about the ripped dress. Shannon firmly denies it, and the blame was quickly put on Emma, Shannon's maid. Emma, with a smirk on her face, informs Camilla of Selena's changes during her absence, even informing her that she has run away to the monastery. Hearing this, Camilla quickly summons Penny and proceeds to unleash her fury. She questions Penny about Selena's changes, but she denies all of it. She then asks Penny about the ripped dress, trying to stir her composure. Unbeknownst to them, Penny and Selena already saw this coming. Before Selena left, she gave Penny a maid's button to show Camilla in case she is framed about the ripped dress. Like they planned, Penny shows it to Camilla, and Emma breaks a sweat at the sight of the button. Camilla then dismisses Penny from the room. As soon as Penny leaves, Camilla charges at Shannon, pulling her hair as she wails in pain. She thinks Shannon lied to her and ordered Emma to rip the dress. What an abusive mother! Outside the room, Penny breathes a sigh of relief, making William think she receives this kind of treatment on a regular basis. Honestly, Penny is mistreated every day, but it's Selena who has it worse. In fact, she fainted the last time she was beaten. Poor Selena, they're on the same boat as Penny. This sparks concern, making William determined to bring the matter up to the captain. Selena needs an escort knight. In the monastery, Selena is focused on the pictures of the winning candidates that Berserker will fight against, the Fire Moth and the Crow. These candidates look ruthless. I bet Berserker would stand a chance against them. After a while, she visits him in the dark to treat him. But she enters his cell absent-mindedly and he manages to pin her to the wall with his sword. She notices that he's moving a lot more. He must be feeling better. However, he doesn't remember her and asks her who she is. Feeling hesitant, she doesn't answer. He asks again and she tells him that she's a trainee. He assumes that she is sent by the Grand Priest, so he tells her he won't be joining any organization. I wonder if he means the Holy Knights? Since he doesn't remember their previous conversation, Selena reiterates that he needs to win at least second place to earn his freedom. After all, she wants him to be free and live once more. She then asks him to sit down so she can treat him, to which he obediently complies. Selena takes out the mana crystal and heals his injuries. However, Selena's throat begins to burn. She hurriedly turns to leave, but once more he pleads for her to stay. Despite his plea, she apologizes, leaving him a second time. On the day of the tournament, Selena joins her fellow priestess, Jenna Grayson, as they talk about Berserker. It turns out he's a captive from the enemy kingdom, and he's been detained for 5 years now. Apparently, he's been experimented upon too, making Selena wonder what kind of experiments he was subject to. Everyone is betting that Berserker would win, thinking he mustn't be human at all. Just the other day, he was badly injured, but now he's all better. But little do they know that Selena has been healing him in secret. Before the tournament, Selena visits Berserker in the isolation room, only for him to confront her, demanding to know her true intentions for healing him. However, Selena once again tells him that she's just a trainee. She tries to leave, but he asks her a question, wondering what would happen if he chooses to stay at the temple. Would he see her again? But before he could finish, she makes her exit, leaving him in the dark room. On the day of the tournament, Selena worries about the candidates and prays for Berserker. However, her prayers are quickly interrupted by loud calls for the healing priests. She turns her head to see Berserker being carried out. It turns out Berserker stood motionless during the game, accepting each hit of his opponent before chopping his head off in one swing. But unfortunately, his tactic leaves him badly injured. Knowing this, Selena becomes furious. How could he do that to the body she worked so hard to heal? Yes, that's right, Selena. Don't let your hard work go to waste. Infuriated, Selena tells herself that she won't heal him this time. Her thoughts are cut short when Franz interrupts her thoughts, asking her what she's thinking so deeply about. He then invites her to join him on a walk, to which she agrees. I love how they're both so close now. As they walk, they talk about the time Selena has left in the monastery before she returns to the palace after the tournament. But she reminds Franz about his keeping his promise of visiting her in the palace. Suddenly, she remembers the mana crystal she took from him and begins to worry about it. He reassures her that there was nothing to worry about as the lifespan of the crystal has already ended. leaving her confused. Surely that can't be the case since she used it perfectly fine earlier. Hearing this, Franz then realizes what Selena has been up to. She's been healing Berserker. To Selena's dismay, he tells her that she did not truly heal him because, unlike other humans, Berserker has the ability to heal on his own. She asks him about the experiment Berserker had gone through, but Franz is shocked that she knows about the matter. Nonetheless, he tells her that he has no knowledge of the experiments he had undergone, but with unwavering certainty, he knows for a fact that Berserker won't die. Curious as ever, she then asks about Crow. Franz tells her that Crow was a general from the defeated nation. It suddenly hits her that both Crow and Berserker could be Valhalla. This means she has to wait for the victor of the tournament. Feeling a sense of difficulty, she asks Franz how much it costs to buy a knight from the temple. But Franz chuckles, admitting that it's so difficult money won't even be enough. But if that's the case, then how did Shannon acquire Valhalla? Later that night, Selena visits Berserker, only to find him covered in blood. Panicking, she rushes towards him, checking if he's still alive. With her ear against his chest, she's startled when he suddenly speaks. Was he waiting for her all along? Selena still feels angry about him intentionally taking a beating. She's unable to hide her frustration, asking what he would have done if she hadn't come to heal him. Even in his weak state, he retorts that in the end, she still came to his aid, leaving Selena speechless. Selena hands him a vial of medicine, but he refuses to drink. Realizing that he's being cautious, Selena takes a sip, reassuring him that it isn't poison. As he drinks the medicine, he can't help but wonder what she'll gain for helping him. Locking eyes with her, he proposes a deal. If she tells him what she'll gain for helping him, he'll do whatever she wishes. But witty as ever, Selena tries to turn the tables. What will he do if she'd actually be an advantage if he dies? Unexpectedly, he replies that he can do that for her, shocking Selena. Getting back to business, she takes out a monocrystal, but she remembers what Franz said. Pushing her luck, she proceeds to heal him, and the room then erupts in blue and purple streaks of light, distorting her vision. Her vision turns blurry, but she thinks it's just the medicine earlier. She feels loopy and intoxicated, and in her state, she tells him what it is she really wants. She wants him to survive. As Selena loses strength, she slowly loses her balance. Despite this, she can clearly make out his voice asking for her name, but she's more curious about his name. Unfortunately, Berserker has no recollection of his memories, not even his name. Hearing this, Selena expresses how sad that is, making Berserker smile. She tells him that if he wins, she will give him a name. At this point, Selena's body gives up, but just before she collapses, she hears the loud sound of a click. Wait, don't tell me that was the click of the door! Hours later, she wakes up, mortified that she fell asleep on his chest. However, he tells her that the priests are coming soon and she must leave before anyone finds her inside the isolation room. But to her dismay, the door is locked. I knew that click was the door! Quick on his feet, Berserker escorts Selena to a hidden back door, helping her escape. But this confuses Selena. If he could do that, why hasn't he escaped already? As Selena leaves, Berserker reminds her of their promise. If he wins, she must give him a name. Selena wonders why Berserker doesn't escape his cell when it's obvious that he can. She ponders on this with Franz, who's busy hiding from other priests. He's eating meat, something they're not allowed to have. At least, it's not so grave of a sin, right? He gives Selena an answer to her musings. Obviously, even if Berserker were to escape, he'd still have nowhere to go. After all, nobody would hire a gladiator slave who knows no loyalty. Shortly after, Selena excuses herself from her conversation with Franz. She heads outside, thinking of going to see Berserker off one more time, but immediately decides against it. An image of him flashes in her mind, and she can't help but wonder if he thinks about her as much as she thinks about him. The following day, game day arrives, and the Great Priest makes his appearance. The Great Priest is Franz's brother, and they look very much alike except for their hair length. Selena is outside when she suddenly receives a letter from her uncle, Cedric, telling her to meet him at the East Gate. As they meet, he wonders when she'll come home. But Selena puts on a show. Would Camilla even want her home? Cedric immediately reassures Selena, telling her that Camilla would be ecstatic. After all, she treats Selena like her real daughter. But little does he know that Camilla has actually been abusing Selena. Selena responds that she's more comfortable in the monastery. Plus, if she goes back home, she might start stuttering again. This catches Cedric's attention, and although he refuses to voice it out loud, he deduces that Selena might have been abused at home. But this shocks Selena because she didn't think her uncle was in the dark about Camilla's abusive tendencies towards her. Well, Now he knows, and he better do something about it. Soon after, Selena sees Cedric off as he leaves, but as soon as he's gone, a man tackles her in an embrace from behind. There could only be one person bold enough to hug Selena without hesitation: Adrian, Camilla's only son. In the book, Selena remembers she tried not to be too close to him, but she always pictured Adrian to be a small child, not a strong and tall knight. Not gonna lie, he looks really attractive. She tries to distance herself, but he pulls her closer, expressing that it's been half a year since they last saw each other, so he's missed her terribly. Selena nods, but she pulls away once more. Unable to take repeated rejection, Adrian snaps, making Selena flinch in fear. He apologizes and reminds her that when they were children, they were so close. But that's not something possible in the present. Camilla would never allow it. But Adrian couldn't care less about his mother. He tells Selena to affectionately call him Eddie, and if she doesn't, he threatens to kiss her. Their interaction sends shivers down Selena's spine, and she tries her best to send him away already. She excuses herself, nervously telling she'll see him at home. However, when she leaves, Adrian calls her one last time, staring daggers and confronting her on some inconsistencies he's noticed. She's never called the Crawford Palace her home before, and in truth, it's been 5 years since they last saw each other. Hearing this, Selena internally curses. She's been caught. However, she has no response to give him, and she continues to walk away. Just in time, the winner of the final tournament is announced. It's Berserker. But Jenna informs Selena that it was the most boring match in history. It turns out the Crow and Berserker didn't fight at all. Instead, the Crow took his own life during his battle with Berserker. Berserker, on the other hand, chose to join the Holy Knights as the winner. Apparently, the Crow was a former general of the defeated kingdom in the war. Upon facing his opponent, he immediately knelt down, exclaiming, "Glory to the kingdom of Valhalla Castic." It turns out he recognized Berserker as one of the members of the royal family. OMG, he's from royal lineage? Could he be a prince? A king? Selena finally confirms that Berserker is Valhalla, the person she's been looking for. With that, she decides it's time to go back home. Back in the Crawford Palace, Cedric confronts Penny, asking her about his suspicion of Camilla abusing Selena. Initially, he confronted Camilla about it, but all he got was an earful from both her and the maid Emma. However, he can't just drop the matter. Penny hesitates at first, but she ultimately tells Cedric about her and Selena's predicament in the freezing annex, with servants refusing to bring them firewood. Cedric sighs, wondering how the butler could neglect his duties to the household. But it's not surprising since Camilla hired the butler, so most likely he's on her side. Just then, William interrupts, suggesting that Selena needs an escort knight. He then tells Cedric about all the rumors of Camilla's abusive nature, rendering Cedric in disbelief. Determined, William asks Cedric to personally assign him as the escort knight. Later on, Selena arrives and Cedric greets her. He informs her about giving her an escort knight, William, and that from now on she'll be occupying Camilla's room instead of the annex. This comes as a shock to Selena. She had hoped to swap rooms with Shannon, but this is way better than she expected. Selena then turns to Penny. She did her part well. Suddenly, William approaches her, offering to carry her luggage. He then informs her that Cedric will be taking a few days off and has assigned another personnel to patrol the border in his stead. Selena never expected a knight as proud as William to be her escort knight. Either way, she has no complaints. After all, he looks like he can hold Adrian at bay. They all start to head inside when Selena asks to call William by his first name, shocking Penny and flustering William. Blushing, he agrees to Selena's request, but his body betrays him and he has a nosebleed on the spot. Well, you definitely failed to hide your emotions there. William dismisses his nosebleed, telling Selena that she can call him Will. Later on, in her new room, Penny shares with Selena what Camilla thinks about Cedric's persistent questioning. Unjust. How could he even think that she'd abuse Selena? The nerve of that woman to feign innocence! In the book, Camilla had no development till the end. Even as she was positioned on the guillotine, all she could do was laugh as she admitted to killing Joanna, Selena's mother. Meanwhile, Penny expresses her trepidations about Selena's return. Shannon would probably start picking on her again. Confident as ever, Selena dismisses her worry. After all, Shannon alone is not a threat unless she has someone as backup. An image of Shannon and Valhalla then flashes in her mind, and for a split second, she wonders if Valhalla fell in love with Shannon in the original book. She then starts thinking about Valhalla. Could he be waiting for her back at the monastery now that he's a member of the Holy Knights? Soon after, Selena comes out of her room to mail a letter, but outside a commotion ensues, caused by none other than Camilla. The servants offer to mail Selena's letter, much to her convenience, but for some reason she knows that Shannon would intercept her letter. Suddenly, Selena spots Emma and she tries to converse with her, but Emma only yells at her. She's saying that Penny is trying to blame her for ripping Selena's dress. Back in her room, Selena expresses her satisfaction for taking Camilla's room. However, Penny doesn't share the same feeling. Instead, she worries about Selena, warning her to be careful of Camilla. Could Penny be aware that Camilla has a knack for poison? A thought crosses Selena's mind, wondering if Penny knew the truth about Camilla killing her mother, Joanna. She then confronts Penny about the dress, telling her about what Emma said. Hearing this, Penny tells her that it's not true. She would never do such a thing. But of course, Selena believes her. After all, Penny is the only pure-hearted one in the palace. Suddenly, a servant barges in Selena's room, announcing that Camilla has summoned her. Oh no, this doesn't sound good. Selena and Penny meet Camilla, who wastes no time in tormenting Selena. She forcibly grabs Selena's jaw, making her fall to her knees in tears. However, seeing Selena like that, Camilla is satisfied. She thinks she's the same Selena with no guts to do anything against her. Looking at Selena's beauty, she's determined to marry her off to Count No. He may be in his 70s, but all Camilla cares about is getting his wealth, and Selena just happens to be the key. However, Camilla isn't done tormenting Selena just yet. She urges Selena to open a secret door, but when she doesn't answer, she turns to Penny instead, who tells her that it might be under the bed. Satisfied, Camilla dismisses them both, reasoning out that she has other places to be. Soon after, Camilla heads to Shannon's room, where Shannon is busy reading Selena's letter. She rambles on about Selena penning to Aaron, a priest she's seduced. However, Camilla pays her no mind and starts attacking Emma. She accuses Emma of playing her like a fool, convinced that it was Emma who ratted her out to Cedric. As punishment, she hands her a vial containing poison, instructing her to consume it in the forest and take her life. Otherwise, it's her family on the line. Emma is distraught and in tears, but she's in no position to object. Meanwhile, back in Selena's room, Penny praises her for her great acting skills in front of Camilla. But the cherry on top for tonight? There's news that Emma's been kicked out of the palace. Emma and Shannon have been friends since diapers, arguably Shannon's only friend, so the news would break Shannon for sure. However, unbeknownst to anyone, Selena feels sorry for Emma. That's because Emma really is innocent. Selena tore her own dress, leading everyone to doubt Emma. No way! That's so sly and low, even for Selena! That night, Selena refuses to sleep. She's waiting for William to comply with her secret order. Outside her window, she sees a cloaked figure, but she knows it's not William. Curious, she sneaks out to investigate. She finds out that it's Shannon, but she runs away in tears, not uttering a word to Selena. Emma leaving the palace must be hard on Shannon, but Selena thinks that separating them is for the better. Behind her, William emerges, informing her that he successfully carried out the task. Hearing this, Selena smiles, but she asks William to keep it a secret. She knows that William might have a hard time keeping a secret, especially since ordained knights like him are forbidden to lie. But she's surprised when William agrees and swears secrecy. The following morning, the palace is distraught at the discovery of Emma's body washing up on the riverside. But the servants start to gossip, criticizing Shannon for not even coming out of her room to organize a funeral for her dear friend. They then praise Selena, who took it upon herself to do so. I wonder if Selena feels even a little guilt about her death. Later, Selena runs into Cedric at the palace grounds, where Emma's parents come marching in their direction, demanding Shannon's presence. They feel insulted that Shannon won't even show herself and pay respect to their daughter's funeral. They leave shortly, but Selena chases them down, handing them Emma's will. But Emma's younger brother Charles follows her around. Selena recognizes Charles as Camilla and Shannon's servant. And speaking of Camilla, she's just made her entrance. She thanks Selena for organizing the funeral and leaves. Charles, however, scoots closer to Selena, telling her about how abusive Camilla was to Emma. To him, Camilla was nothing short of the devil. Hearing this, Selena takes the opportunity to make him an ally. She then gives him an important task, delivering a secret letter. A few days later, Selena receives a reply from Franz, smiling at how Charles succeeded in delivering her letter. But the reply isn't even near to what she expected, so she leaves and makes her way to the temple. When Selena made up her mind to go to the temple, she never thought Shannon would offer to join her. Upon arriving at the temple, she suggests they pray together, but of course, Shannon is free to do so separately too. She might want to pray for Emma after all. Selena then greets a priestess, Erin, and introduces Shannon as her sister. She asks Priestess Erin about Franz's whereabouts, to which she responds that he's in the penance room. As Selena and Shannon make their way to the penance room, she makes one thing clear to Shannon. She herself has seen that Erin is a girl, not a boy she's seduced. Hearing this, Shannon is shocked knowing that Selena is aware she read her letter. She then lashes out, accusing Selena of humiliating her. The two get into an argument but quickly stop when Franz emerges from the penance room. As soon as Shannon sees Franz, she immediately becomes head over heels for him, shocking Selena. She totally thought Valhale was Shannon's type, not Franz. Okay, now that was unexpected. Seeing that Shannon's kept herself busy now, Selena takes the opportunity to escape, leaving Franz to deal with her alone. Looking for Valhale, she meets Maximus Clark, the instructor of the Holy Knights. His terrifying build makes Selena nervous, but she proceeds to make her intentions known. She is looking for the winner of the tournament, the one who recently joined the Holy Knights. But to her horror, he informs her that Valhale had been exiled. With her mood dampened, she returns to Franz and Shannon, where Franz fills her in about Valhale. Apparently, after he calmly expressed his desire to become a Holy Knight, his attitude had changed. As a result, he was starved for 15 days, causing his attempt to leave. But when the Knights stopped him, he killed them and escaped. He was looking for a specific trainee, and realization then hit Selena. He joined the Holy Knights and left just because he wanted to see her. Meanwhile, in the forest, Cedric is covered in blood from head to toe, and standing in front of him is none other than Valhale. Franz thinks that Valhale might be looking for Selena, so he warns her to be careful. But Selena, on the other hand, is more concerned how she and Valhale will meet again. Heading back to the palace, Shannon can't help but question why only Selena was assigned an escort knight. Well, originally, Shannon was supposed to bring Valhale back from the temple to become her escort knight. But that plot is long gone now that Selena has changed the original story's flow. Shannon then snaps Selena out of her thoughts, demanding she get off the carriage and walk home. The audacity! It's literally Selena's carriage! Selena is irritated by Shannon's audacity and instead gives her a taste of her own medicine, kicking her out of the carriage. Back at the palace, Penny informs Selena about Camilla's recent doings. She's been gathering all the vassals and scolding them. But it didn't used to be like this. Camilla was barely allowed to manage the estate. However, during the war, the Crawford territory was immensely devastated, and its recovery and reconstruction was all possible because Camilla funded it. Selena sighs, but she's suddenly cut off by Charles, who brings urgent news from the meeting with the vassals. Camilla is planning to marry Selena off. Charles can't provide more details since the meeting was cut off. And Selena soon understands why because a couple of knights barge into her room, informing her that Cedric has been gravely injured. Apparently, Cedric and his knights were outnumbered by thieves. Close to defeat, a rogue warrior helped them, saving his life. Cedric wanted him to join the White Eagle Knights, but Camilla strongly opposed due to the warrior's background. It turns out he's someone with no name and memory, to which Selena immediately recognizes as Valhale. Cedric now turns to Selena, wanting to ask her permission to allow the rogue warrior to serve the Crawford family. Selena tells Cedric she'll follow whatever he decides on. It doesn't even matter who the warrior is. What's important is that he saved Cedric. Conveniently, the warrior happens to be Valhale. It's been 10 days since Valhale was welcomed into the Crawford Palace, and Selena wants to see how Valhale and Shannon's relationship progresses, assuming it still happens. Unfortunately, that plan is going nowhere since Shannon has been grounded, so Selena decides to seek out Valhale herself instead of waiting to observe him and Shannon. She lets William lead the way to the outskirts where Valhale is stationed, even letting him distract the guard on duty. Seeing how the coast is clear, Selena moves, determined to look for Valhale, but he suddenly comes out of the building she's about to enter, bumping into her. He doesn't look back, and Selena calls out his attention, expressing how she'd been waiting for him. Hearing her voice, Valhale turns around, looking at her in awe. They talk under the shade of a large tree, where Selena tells him to agree if Camilla asks him to be Shannon's escort knight, something that confuses Valhale. She then explains she wants to keep him close, and after all, she can't continue sneaking out just to talk to him. As soon as she finishes, Valhale clears his throat, demanding to know why Selena healed him back then. But she returns the question back to him, wondering what reasons he can come up with. When he doesn't respond, she turns to leave, making him chase after her. It turns out, he just doesn't know what to say. He explains that the events of the final game wasn't his fault, but Selena stops him, realizing that he thinks she only healed him because she was a trainee at the temple. She resumes walking away, but Valhalla continues, recounting that regardless of the circumstances, he still won. And even if the crow did fight him, he would still win, because he's driven by a promise Selena made. His words make Selena freeze, recalling the promise she made to him if he wins. With sincerity and genuineness, Valhalla asks her to fulfill her promise, begging her to give him a name. Ugh, he looks so cute! He's a pure cinnamon roll of a man! Selena tells Valhalla that the crow has already told him his name during their standoff. However, Valhalla has no recollection of that name, making it meaningless to him. Hearing all this, Selena tries to recall how Valhalla was like in the book. But because he was a side character, very little background was given about him. But one thing's for sure. Selena knows that Valhalla, a royal, couldn't have been thrown into an enemy nation with lost memories. Something must have happened along the way. She then tries to change the subject, beckoning him to show her his body to check if he's truly alright. This makes him blush, but he grants her request anyway. The two head inside the building where Valhalla unbuttons his top, revealing his chiseled torso to Selena. She gawks at the sight of his well-built body, making him promise not to hurt himself anymore. The two stare into each other's eyes, a tension growing between their gazes. Suddenly, someone calls out Selena's name from outside, making them both flinch. As Selena leaves, Valhalla remarks that her name is beautiful, making Selena smile. He watches her as she goes, but she suddenly turns around, calling him Valhalla, exclaiming that that's his name. She adds that she'll also seek him out from this moment forward, making Valhalla flustered. Selena then reunites with William, and the two head back to the palace where she sees Camilla a bit too close with a blonde-haired man. That night, Selena refuses to sleep early, determined to keep an eye on Camilla. She questions Penny about the man, and she informs her that the man is the head butler, Reuben. Later that night, inside the annex, Reuben listens to Camilla ramble on about Cedric and family matters. But all he can think about is that Camilla and himself should be more careful. People might notice how frequent they've been meeting lately. Camilla brushes him off, confident that nobody would pay attention to anything concerning the annex. But little does she know that Selena has her suspicions already. Soon enough, both Selena and Penny witness a scandalous sight. Reuben leaves the annex with his clothes loose and his hair disheveled. No wonder Camilla is purposely staying in the annex. It's the perfect place to cheat. Her character just keeps getting worse and worse. Penny wakes Celine, expressing her worry because she didn't think Celine was able to sleep well last night. Of course she wasn't. She was too preoccupied thinking about her stepmother's affair. Celine replies that she just slept late last night. Shortly after, Camilla and some maids enter the room. Camilla then sends Penny out, wanting to speak with Celine alone. As the maids dress her, Celine thinks they had probably messed with her hair at some point. They start to scare her when one of the maids picks up a pair of scissors. From outside the room, a sudden cry startles both William and Charles. Charles asks William if he's going to go in, but William refuses because Celine already told him not to intervene, no matter what happens inside. Inside, Camilla slaps the maid holding the scissors and threatens her not to do it again. She does this because she doesn't want Celine to be tarnished, as she still has plans to marry Celine off. Camilla then tells everyone to make Celine try on different dresses, which excites Penny. After the dress-up, Camilla gives her a backhanded compliment, saying that if Celine just keeps her mouth shut, she's like an angel. In the original novel, it took Camilla 10 days to prepare Selena in order to sell her to a regional lord. But before their supposed wedding, they met Duke Valentine. Eventually, Shannon ends up taking Celine's place. After Shannon's husband dies, she returns to the mansion and discovers that Camilla has become the head of the household. Camilla starts arranging marriages for her without consent. This results in Shannon blaming Celine, prompting her to command Valhalla to torture Celine. Now, Celine concludes that the true villainess isn't Shannon, but Camilla. Celine then pretends to faint so Camilla will lay off her. Camilla promptly leaves after Penny worriedly asks her to give Celine some space. After she leaves, Celine asks Penny if she knows whom she'll be marrying. Penny responds that, according to Charles, it will be Elder Lord Grayson. Furious, Celine silently curses Camilla for making her, an 18-year-old, marry a 73-year-old. Celine then recalls a woman named Jenna Grayson. Remembering this, she promptly decides to meet her uncle. After being told that Camilla will be out, Celine puts on the poison necklace before heading out. Upon arriving at his quarters, Cedric greets his niece brightly. She immediately tells him she has something to discuss, and Cedric says the same. He then informs her that he's going to step down as captain, which confuses her because it's too soon compared to the novel. When she asks who'll be the next captain, Cedric tells her not to worry because Adrian is there. Celine's anxiety increases rapidly as she hears this news. Celine tells Cedric about the potion around her neck, explaining that Penny found it in Camilla's bedroom. However, Cedric finds this hard to believe. Even after pouring the potion on a plant, he remains doubtful that Camilla would do such a thing. She is in disbelief at how gullible her uncle is. Celine explains that she found a will on Emma's body, detailing how Camilla handed her the poison. She points out that if Camilla can eliminate such a loyal maid, no one is safe. She also notes that Adrian is still young. Cedric cuts their conversation short, saying he must leave because of the barbarians. Celine proposes making the barbarians residents instead of eliminating them, but acknowledges it's not that easy. Worried that her uncle's efforts might be futile, especially with his injured hand, Celine decides to use her ability to heal him. She explains that her ability is the reason she met Valhall. After she tells him about Valhall's current state, Cedric praises Celine's capabilities. Sensing there's nothing left to discuss, she politely asks to leave. As she exits, Celine asks Cedric about Camilla's relationship with the head butler, Reuben. Cedric replies that they have been childhood best friends. Upon hearing this, Celine throws shade at their relationship by mentioning what happened the other night. The next morning, Celine is exhausted despite her minimal efforts the previous day. Penny wonders why Camilla would be so daring as to leave a poison bottle in her bedroom. Celine thinks about how naive Cedric and Penny are. Celine clarifies that Camilla is not that careless. She tells Penny that when she spoke to Cedric about the potion, she said Penny was the one who found the bottle in Camilla's room. Though dismayed, Penny's disappointment is short-lived, as she's determined to do everything in her power to help Celine. Upon arriving at the temple, Celine leaves the carriage to find Jenna Grayson. After calling her name, Jenna rushes over and greets her with a big hug. Celine tells her she wishes to discuss something. They talk about the upcoming marriage between the Crawfords and Graysons. Celine realizes Jenna is unaware of who will be married, so she uses the opportunity to deceive her into thinking it is her mother who will be marrying into the Graysons. After spreading the false rumor, Celine tells Jenna she has a prior engagement and leaves. Camilla extravagantly dresses Celine, going far beyond their usual and dolling her up after receiving news of Lord Grayson's visit. After finishing, Camilla leaves the room. Penny worriedly asks Celine if she's actually going to marry an old man, which Celine promptly denies with a fake smile. She then tells Penny that she's going out for a bit. Celine visits Shannon's room, mockingly telling her not to open doors to anyone so easily. Annoyed, Shannon tells her to get on with it. Celine deceives her by saying that earlier when she went to the monastery, Franz asked about Shannon's well-being. This greatly flusters Shannon, who didn't expect Franz to ask about her. Celine lies further, saying she will ask Camilla for permission to go to the monastery with Shannon next time. But after Celine mentions that Shannon should have a knight beside her, the door is slammed in her face. Later, William asks Celine if she's going to visit the outskirt guard post again, worrying she might attract unwanted attention. After she reassures him, William becomes flustered and can't maintain eye contact, making her anxious that it might be because of her makeup. William wonders why Celine has been wanting to meet Valhall recently. She answers that it is due to important matters, not because she's bored. William then expresses worry that if Valhall continues to see someone as beautiful as Celine, he might get the wrong idea and fall for her. Curious, Celine asks if William feels the same way since he does see her every day as well. She teases him, forcing him to admit his feelings, which he does. Shortly after, the door opens from the guard post, revealing Valhall. After William leaves, Valhall asks if he was bothering her earlier. She denies this, saying William was just doing his duties as an escort. Noticing the cigarette in his hand, Celine feels ashamed that he won't be able to light it since there's no fire source. She is proven wrong when Valhall uses his magic to ignite it, greatly confusing her. After inhaling the smoke, Celine asks why it doesn't have the usual scent. Valhall explains it's a type of tobacco that makes him forget memories. Celine asks if something is bothering him to the point he wants to forget. Confused, Valhall asks why she cares so much. Celine is dumbfounded by Valhall's question and cannot find the words to answer him. Valhall then tells her that he will soon be going to war, the very war Cedric is preparing for. Concerned, Celine reminds him not to forget his promise to be careful and avoid getting hurt. Again, Valhall asks why she cares so much. Worried that Shannon and Camilla might have influenced him first, Celine asks if he has been in contact with any of them. This confuses Valhall, who asks if that is the purpose of her visit. She denies it, saying she merely wanted to see his face. Upon hearing this, he stares at her striking beauty, making him flustered. Shortly thereafter, Celine informs Valhale that she will soon be wed to a 73-year-old Lord Grayson. Bewildered, he asks why Camilla would make such a foolish decision, especially knowing that Celine is a legitimate daughter. Celine explains that Camilla is actually her stepmother. Curious about where Valhale got the cigar, Celine asks if his comrades talk about her. He responds that they often comment on how elegantly attractive she is. Celine is amazed by his composure despite saying something embarrassing and wonders if it's because of his royal bloodline. She then caresses his face and asks what he thinks. He calmly answers that Celine doesn't feel real to him. After returning to her room, Celine asks why Valhale is joining the battle. He tells her it could be his ambition. After considering this, she orders William to investigate the family tree of the Castic bloodline. Celine and Camilla finally meet Lord Grayson. As Celine introduces herself, she stumbles over her words, prompting Camilla to volunteer to escort the Lord instead. After they leave, Celine feels relieved and satisfied, noticing that when she made eye contact with Lord Grayson, he did not look at her as a potential spouse. Meanwhile, Camilla apologizes to Lord Grayson, explaining that Celine is simply overwhelmed by his presence, which he dismisses. He then proposes calling Camilla by her name, especially since the marriage is approaching. Camilla rambles about Celine's good qualities and how she would be good for him. Lord Grayson tells Camilla that he does not intend to marry her daughter. Instead, he wishes to marry Camilla herself as she is closer to his own age. Realizing this, Camilla is disgusted by his audacity and decides to leave him, leaving him helpless with no one to assist him. A few days later, Camilla falls ill following her encounter with Lord Grayson. She goes out hunting at an inconvenient time, especially with Cedric about to return. After Camilla walked out on Lord Grayson, all ties between them are cut off, including the farming contract between the Crawfords and the Graysons that had lasted over 100 years. Celine asks Penny if Camilla went with the butler, which Penny confirms. Penny then asks who the planter is for, and Celine replies that it is for Franz, who has recently gained fame due to his influence on Shannon, who has become religious because of him. Celine then wonders why Camilla seems unconcerned about Cedric and suspects that Camilla might be plotting to kill Cedric very soon. Cedric feels overwhelmed by the heavy burden placed on him, especially since Camilla, who caused much of the trouble, takes no accountability and is out hunting. Celine is surprised by her uncle's unwavering patience. Cedric receives news from William that Celine has started to stutter again, so he decides to ask her himself. Celine confirms it happens, but only when Camilla is around. She also clarifies that she doesn't believe she's being abused by Camilla. That's just what Cedric made her believe. Cedric's expression reveals he immediately regrets saying that. However, Celine doesn't mind. She knew people like Cedric before, indecisive and the worst kind. Later that night, Celine sneaks out to see Valhale, but is seen by Penny, who worries for her safety. Celine reassures Penny that Valhale is not dangerous despite his history as a gladiator. Penny is relieved, knowing Celine has planned this carefully. On their way to the guard post, Celine and William detect someone tailing them, but Celine pays no attention and continues looking for Valhale. Soon, she finds him and suggests they go inside the fort. The two sit awkwardly a foot apart. To break the ice, Celine caresses Valhale's hair, telling him he smells good. He reciprocates the compliment. After a minute of silence, out of nowhere, Celine orders Valhale to take off his clothes. Celine tells Valhale that she just wants to check his body's condition before he goes to war. She expresses her feelings, saying it's absurd that Valhale has such an easy job guarding the post but wants a more dangerous path instead. After he strips, Celine boldly takes ownership of his body, saying she put in effort healing it when it was all messed up. Suddenly, they hear a noise from outside, but they ignore it. Celine emphasizes that she not only healed his body, but also gave him a name. Because of this, she insists that Valhale belongs entirely to her, which he cannot deny. She then asks about the tattoo he has on his arm, a tattoo signifying he is, or used to be, a gladiator. However, he doesn't seem to mind it much. Celine thinks this is the sole reason he isn't knighted, despite his efforts in saving Cedric from peril. Celine proposes they get rid of the tattoo, which Valhale agrees to. He suggests using a branding iron, but Celine is reluctant to use such an uncivilized method. Valhale insists, stating that she has claimed ownership of him, so she should use this opportunity to mark him herself. Convinced, Celine trembles as she presses the branding iron on his tattoo. Worried, she quickly searches for the magic stone to soothe his pain, but she can't find it. She tells him she will return immediately after getting the magic stone, but he stops her. Valhale asks her why she cares so much about him, going as far as treating him as an equal. Celine quietly ponders that the reason she treats him as an equal is because he actually comes from royal blood. Penny informs Celine that Camilla has returned from her hunt. Celine asks if Cedric is still drinking, and Penny confirms, adding that even her father, who owns the brewery, is worried. Celine then orders Penny to summon Cedric to her bedroom, which Penny does promptly, earning Celine's pride for her obedience. After Penny leaves, Charles enters to report on any suspicious people around the mansion. Celine worries about which servant might have poisoned Cedric. She recalls that in the original novel, Cedric was supposed to die during the feast celebrating her engagement to Lord Grayson, but she has managed to avoid that outcome. After sending Charles away, Celine lies on her bed, pondering Cedric's vulnerability to poisoning. Soon, Camilla and Reuben arrive, wishing to enter Celine's room, but William firmly guards the door. As William prepares to draw his sword, Celine rushes out to stop them and asks what brings them there. Camilla says she wants to talk to Celine. Moments later, two maids hold Celine's arms down as Camilla confronts her about what she did at the monastery and accuses her of bringing Valhalla to the manor every night. Camilla blames Celine for what happened with Lord Grayson. Camilla orders a maid to lift Celine's skirt so she can whip her. After a few lashes on her calf, Celine prays that Cedric will enter the room and witness Camilla's cruelty. Just as a maid slaps Celine for not staying still, Adrian opens the door. After Adrian sees his sister Celine being abused, he promptly transfers her to her bedroom. When Celine wakes up feeling tingling pain, she finds Adrian beside her. Concerned, he asks how she's doing. She reassures him, but is greatly confused as to why he is still there at such an hour. Celine doesn't remember much about what happened after she passed out. Adrian tells her she's been unconscious for 2 days, which made him very worried. After acknowledging his presence, she asks him to call Penny. This upsets Adrian, who tells her he is also furious about what their mother, Camilla, did to her. Not wanting to have this conversation, Celine simply tells him to do as she says and go find Penny. As he is about to leave, Celine wonders if Adrian no longer suspects her, given that 5 years have passed since they last saw each other. Before exiting, Adrian asks if what Camilla said earlier was a lie, that Celine was involved with a commoner. Celine warmly affirms his thoughts. After he leaves, Celine catches her breath, suffocated by fear of Adrian, and worries that she might have to see him every day now. Shortly after, Penny arrives and hugs Celine tightly, expressing her worry. Celine asks where Camilla is, and Penny says she is currently on probation. Cedric wishes to ask Celine if the abuse happens often and plans to apologize to her once she wakes up. Penny also tells Celine that she was initially worried Cedric might misconstrue Celine's relationship with Valhalla, but Cedric deemed it impossible and even defended her against Camilla. Meanwhile, Cedric confronts Camilla for torturing Celine without just cause. Camilla explains the situation, but Cedric dismisses her excuses. Cedric reveals that Valhalla used to be a knight, which contradicts Camilla's belief that he was a gladiator. He notes that Valhalla saved him and wants to make him join the White Eagles. However, Celine is adamant about stopping this because it would ruin their image. Celine only visits Cedric to convince him to ask for forgiveness at the temple. Cedric explains that the reason Celine constantly visits Valhalla is because he basically begged her to. However, Camilla still thinks the idea of letting Celine meet someone so dangerous is absurd. As Camilla is about to tell him that he's become too careless, Cedric cuts her off, noting that no one has ever seen Valhalla hit a woman in his life. He continues to defend Valhalla as a good person, but Camilla thinks Cedric must be out of his mind. Cedric interrupts her again, pointing out that it was Camilla who tortured Celine until she passed out. Camilla then asks why he was expelled from the temple. Cedric tells her that he refused to train, but says that's beside the point. The fact remains, she accused Celine of such acts without sufficient evidence, even going so far as to whip her until she passed out. Camilla tries to justify her actions, stating that if rumors like that were to spread, it would be difficult for Celine to get married. Hearing this, Cedric confronts Camilla about her intention to make Celine marry Lord Grayson, which she confirms. Cedric finds this absurd, but Camilla tries to play the victim and pretends it was a difficult decision for her, especially since Lord Grayson also deceived her. She then tells him how out of options she is right now. Camilla's father no longer wishes to support them financially unless one of two conditions is met. Cedric and Camilla get married, or Adrian becomes the head of the White Eagles. However, this is a difficult decision for Cedric since the White Eagles have been run by their family for generations, so he can't easily hand it over. He also can't agree to the marriage. Camilla then tells him there's nothing more she can say to convince her father to help the Crawford family. As she prepares to leave, Cedric begs her not to torture Celine anymore. She agrees, but gives Cedric a deadly gaze. To express her sincerity, she also tells Cedric that she'll apologize to Celine personally. Meanwhile, William enters Celine's room carrying books, records of the Castic household. She asks where he found them, and he responds that it's top secret. After she expresses her appreciation, William hopes the books might be of use to her. Then William gets down on one knee and reaches for her hand, expressing his deep gratitude for the honor of serving her. She tells him that she should be the one thanking him for doing her bidding. Later, Celine reads the book in search of All Hell's name. Suddenly, a knock comes at the door, making her wonder who it could be. As she heads to the door, it opens, revealing Adrian. He claims to have seen a light from her room outside, so he decided to pay her a visit. He then asks her to read him a book because he can't sleep. Upon hearing this, Celine thinks he's out of his mind. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!